Listen up, because the truth that needs to be spoken loud and clear is one that many won't dare say on cable news or polite political panels. The Democratic Party, long crowned the champion of Black America, has quietly and systematically abandoned foundational Black Americans, FBAs. Instead of prioritizing our communities, our struggles, and our voices, they have shifted their focus to immigrant populations, chasing new voter blocs and corporate money, all while leaving Black interests on the sidelines. This isn't accidental or incidental. It is a deliberate political calculus, a cold and cruel strategy that treats Black voters as a resource to be used and then discarded. For decades, Black Americans were the backbone of Democratic electoral power. Our votes won elections, our voices filled rallies, our struggles shaped the party's platform. But today, that foundation is crumbling. If you're wondering why the party that claims to care so much about Black America seems indifferent, or worse, hostile to our urgent needs, it's because their priorities have changed. Reparations, economic justice, criminal justice reform, these have become afterthoughts, while immigration policy has become the centerpiece of Democratic politics. This shift is not just a political betrayal, it is a cultural and economic abandonment with real consequences. Today, I'm breaking down why the Democratic Party abandoned Black Americans for immigrants, how it happened, what it means for our communities, and why FBAs must rethink their political allegiance if they want real change. This story starts long before the rise of mass immigration. The bond between Black Americans and the Democratic Party was hard-fought and forged in the fires of struggle. Back in the early 20th century, most Black voters supported the Republican Party, the party of Lincoln and emancipation. But by the 1930s, the Great Depression changed everything. Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal brought relief programs that, despite segregation and discrimination, offered a lifeline to many Black families struggling to survive. This marked the beginning of a seismic shift in political loyalty. The true turning point came with the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s. Under Presidents John F. Kennedy and Lyndon B. Johnson, the Democratic Party led the charge to pass the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, transformative laws that dismantled legal segregation and protected Black voting rights. For many Black Americans, the Democratic Party became the party of progress, hope, and political power. This alliance was reinforced as Black political leaders rose within the party's ranks. Shirley Chisholm became the first Black woman in Congress in 1968. Decades later, Barack Obama's presidency symbolized the zenith of this relationship, the first Black president elected with overwhelming Black support. But no alliance lasts forever without constant nurturing. Beginning in the late 1970s and 80s, cracks began to show. The party's embrace of neoliberal economics, free trade, deregulation, shrinking social programs hit Black working-class communities hard. At the same time, the U.S. began experiencing waves of immigration from Latin America, Asia, and Africa. The Democratic Party saw an opportunity in this shifting demographic landscape. Immigration policy became a new frontier, a cause the party embraced with growing fervor. But as it championed immigrant rights and integration, it started turning away from Black economic and social concerns. The result, the coalition that once put Black America at the center now pushed us to the margins. Now let's talk policy, because politics is ultimately about who gets what, when, and how. Over the past 3 decades, the Democratic Party has prioritized immigration reform over Black economic justice, reparations, and criminal justice reform. This isn't a coincidence, it's a strategic choice. Look at economic justice first. The demand for reparations, money and policy remedies to address centuries of slavery, systemic theft, and discrimination, has been marginalized. The 2021 House Resolution H.R. 40, proposing a commission to study reparations, passed but stalled without real progress. Why? Because the party's leadership has been distracted by other priorities. Meanwhile, the party doubled down on immigration reform. The 2021 U.S. Citizenship Act proposed a path to citizenship for millions of undocumented immigrants, but made no direct provisions for the specific economic struggles facing Black communities. It's no secret many FBAs see these policies as competition for scarce jobs, affordable housing, and social services. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, Black unemployment still hovers near 10%, nearly triple that of white Americans. At the same time, immigration continues to increase the labor pool, often pushing wages down and increasing competition in low-wage sectors traditionally occupied by Black workers. This policy prioritization also fractures working-class unity. Democrats preach multicultural solidarity, but in practice, the narrative suppresses Black concerns about economic displacement and cultural erasure, dismissing them as racial anxiety or reactionary fear. Kisai. Criminal justice reform, another core Black issue, has been deprioritized as well. While Democrats have made symbolic gestures toward police reform and ended some mass incarceration policies, the issue has never received the bold legislative attention it demands, especially compared to the party's vocal advocacy for immigrant protections. For example, the 2022 Build Back Better bill was heavy on funding immigrant health and education but watered down criminal justice reforms to appease centrist lawmakers. The message was clear: immigrant issues trump Black justice. Politics is the art of the possible, but it's also the business of numbers. And the Democratic Party has made a cold calculation about those numbers. Immigrants and their children are the fastest growing voting bloc in the U.S. The 2020 census projects that by 2045, no racial or ethnic group will hold a majority. Democrats have decided to court these new voters aggressively, hoping to maintain their dominance as demographic shifts continue. At the same time, corporate donors who benefit from immigrant labor have deep pockets and political influence. Big tech, agribusiness, and multinational companies push for open immigration policies, and they fund Democratic campaigns to get them. This intersection of political ambition and corporate interest has shaped a coalition that includes Black Americans, immigrants, and others. But it's an uneven coalition. Black interests are often sacrificed to secure immigrant votes and keep donor money flowing. In 2023, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley voiced what many FBAs feel: we cannot continue to ask Black communities to sacrifice our own for the sake of political expediency. This frustration is growing louder across the country. Beyond policy, the Democratic Party's shift marginalizes Black cultural and political identity. Party messaging increasingly centers immigrant stories and celebrates immigrant pride, often pushing Black narratives to the sidelines. This plays out in media coverage and political discourse, where immigrant issues dominate progressive conversation. This sidelining exacerbates tensions between FBAs and immigrant communities, fueling anti-Blackness within these groups, a phenomenon the party rarely addresses honestly. On the ground, FBAs experience displacement through gentrification fueled by immigrant entrepreneurs, strained public resources in schools and housing, and diluted political representation in cities with surging immigrant populations. But Black America isn't standing still. Foundational Black Americans are organizing to reclaim political power and demand accountability. Groups like Black Voters Matter and leaders such as Stacey Abrams emphasize issue-driven voting and self-determination over blind party loyalty. Increasingly, FBAs are rejecting the myth that they must sacrifice their interests for a multicultural coalition. The rise of political figures who openly criticize the Democratic Party signals a new era of Black political independence and assertiveness. The Democratic Party's abandonment of Black America is a crisis demanding reckoning. FBAs must hold their leaders accountable, demanding policies that truly reciprocate their historic support: economic justice, reparations, criminal justice reform, not empty platitudes. Political power is a tool. If you're not getting what you deserve, it's time to rethink who wields that tool on your behalf. Vote with purpose. Demand real change. Black America's future depends on it.